Hi! So, obviously speaking about AJ the other day and just how, everyone is because of how hot of a topic he is at the minute, as he should be. I just wanted to, and everyone realising truly how good of an all-time great AJ Styles is, again, as they should. I was thinking about AJ, in my opinion, probably his greatest rival, and that is Samoa Joe. And if I've not made this clear, Samoa Joe is one of my favourite wrestlers ever. I adore Samoa Joe. Adore him. And I just wanted to really ramble about him because I feel like it's long overdue. And really, it's just more about where does... Samoa Joe, for me, is the definition of an all-timer. Truly. I feel like Samoa Joe is truly one of those guys. He's a measuring stick with anyone. Samoa Joe is one of the greatest wrestlers I've ever seen. You got to look at Samoa Joe, how big he is. Like, it's undeniable, but the guy's pure mass. And the way he moves that size has no right. The charisma Samoa Joe has is just unmatched. As a face, as a heel, just the legacy of Samoa Joe alone gets you. I mean, Samoa Joe has had, frankly, just off the top of my head, two of the greatest matches I've ever seen. And that, well, three if you want to be, three if I just remember, and that's just off the top of the dome, is the triple threat with Christopher Daniels and AJ Styles and TNA, obviously. You got the match in, I think it's in Ring of Honor, against the Necro Butcher, which is just a massacre, but I adore it so much. It's one of my favourite matches ever. It says a lot about me. And then, obviously, the match with Kenta Kobashi in Ring of Honor. And I think that is a perfect example of just how to describe the status and just how godly Samoa Joe is. Samoa Joe has had a match with Kenta Kobashi and was stood toe-to-toe with the guy. And if you don't know who Kenta Kobashi is, Kenta Kobashi is probably the god of pro wrestling. That's ironic coming from, with Kenny Omega existing. And obviously my favourite's Bryan Danielson. But Kobashi is I've not watched a lot of All Japan. I still have not watched him versus Misawa. I still need to, one of them. I need to watch one of those matches. But if you know wrestling, you know the status of Kenta Kobashi and how high of a bar that is. And Samoa Joe, again, this is early Samoa Joe too, by the way. Ring of Honor Samoa Joe, where he's in there and he's standing toe-to-toe with what a lot of people consider the greatest wrestler to ever live. Never mind just the greatest of all time to ever live. It's undebatable to a lot of people. And I think Samoa Joe is truly one of those people where, I've said it before with his title reigns in AEW, Samoa Joe will never, I don't think he'll ever get the credit he deserves for being able to put in any situation, any title, any feud, and it works. There's only a few things I think Samoa Joe, I've seen personally, that he hasn't made just tenfold elevated. Like, you look at AEW, Samoa Joe had the ROH belt, he had the TNT, he didn't have the TNT belt, what was it? Was it the TNT belt, or I forget what belt he had. It was I think it might have been the TNT, but it wasn't international, I know that. The point is, Samoa Joe has these mid-card belts, for lack of a better term. But, and then Samoa Joe will drop that belt completely and go on the world title scene, and you're like, yeah, no debate. Samoa Joe and it just works with Samoa Joe. And frankly, it's the one problem I've had with AEW's presentation of Samoa Joe is the guy hasn't, I think he should have a true, proper, few-month reign of that belt, and not just the transitional champ, which he has been twice. And it's that pains me. That's how high regard I hold Joe. And then that's not including his TNA. I've not watched a lot of TNA Joe, but even I can just tell you right now it's incredible. And then you've still got the WWE eras, especially Black and Gold. I think he's still the only person to ever hold NXT title 3 times, which is, especially in Black and Gold, huge, huge deal. And I stand by Samoa Joe's probably WWE's, at the time, probably one of their greatest fumbles ever. Like, you look at obviously the whole thing is, look at his thing with Brock. And Samoa Joe going toe-to-toe with someone with Brock Lesnar, which, bear in mind how WWE present Brock Lesnar and how the public know Brock Lesnar, to make that believable is, it's dumbfounded. Like, you cannot just do that. You know what I mean? Like, and bear in mind, this is a guy who, in my opinion, doesn't get the credit of how good he truly is. I think Samoa Joe, you look at all these all-timers, I think Samoa Joe is honestly probably above them. Like, I always have, like, the Mount Rushmore is obviously a big question for a lot of people. Who's your favourite four? My top three are undeniable. I always struggle with my fourth. I could probably make a top 10 about my top fourth picks. And Samoa Joe's one of those guys. And I feel like, even to myself, I doubt myself because I'm like, how is this doubt? It's fucking Samoa Joe. And, like, it's a shame Joe's winding down. I think Joe will retire in the next 2 years. Again, I think AJ joins AEW. And then when AJ joins AEW, I mean, him and Joe are going to have to run it back. But, like, Joe's just, it's his presentation, and I don't think it's how he's booked. I don't think it's a company thing with Joe. I think Joe makes it. Again, he doesn't change himself. It's similar to what I described as AJ, where Joe just is Joe, and it fucking works. Joe walks in, it's the aura. He's frankly got too much aura. He's too tough. Like, Joe can wear, like, even when he wore that floral shirt and Shibata said he's too big to pull that off. Like, it's just dumb as hell. He's tough as hell. The promo is cool, calm, and, like, threatening voice. I mean, good God, he's so complete. And, again, one of my favourite eras of all of wrestling, I think I've said this before, is old school Ring of Honor. I wasn't a fan back then, but I just love going back to it. Obviously, I'm a huge Bryan Danielson fan. That's why. But Joe in that, I mean, it's just so different. I think it's Kenta. It's someone like that, where it was similar to how he turned on Hangman in AEW. Where, like, they're walking out and he accidentally brushes shoulders with them, and then he just fronts, and then he just gets riled up and just goes in there and they start beating the hell out of each other. That is Joe. That is Samoa Joe. That is the killer. He's just, it's just, I think it's so impressive. Again, this is what I've always said. If you're a wrestler and you can transcend multiple companies, especially during the era from 2000s, probably late 90s, 2000s onwards, and just constantly being seen as a true top player, a true fan favourite, whatever, and just stay the same without letting a company... If you go to a company, especially WWE, and they go, we don't really need to change you, you're that good, you're that solidified, you're that, frankly, perfect as a character, that solidifies you as an all-time great. Again, you've got Joe in Ring of Honor, TNA, probably other promotions I'm probably forgetting about, obviously WWE, AEW. You can watch all those AEW. You can watch probably a match from each. And obviously age is a thing. But the character Samoa Joe probably stays the same. He kind of, like, in a weird way, I don't want to say completely the same to Gunther, well, as a modern comparison, but kind of, where Gunther's obviously such this ridiculously condescending, classic, brutal heel who likes to, like, present himself as cool, calm, and collected, but, like, inside and below that thin layer has such a big temper that can just blow, and, you know, will get enraged, go toe to toe with the best of the best. I feel like that describes Joe perfectly. And again, not just Kobashi. I said he went toe to toe with Kent Kobashi, which, bear in mind, such a high bar. Samoa Joe went toe to toe with what people would debate and probably, frank, I'll just say, PKJ Styles. And even Kurt Angle, they're not even talking about Kurt and TNA, Jesus Christ. That's Joe. That is Samoa Joe. And just, again, I still think this guy should, for me, Samoa Joe should have the career of every all-timer. He should be a world champion in WWE. Again, it's something I cannot get. That's how good Joe is. And I feel like, again, if you're a wrestler who can go in there, it's WWE specifically, and be who you are from the indies, and just basically be seen as a guy who should have had a world title and just never. And not just from your fans, people who are getting introduced to you. That's such a high bar. And, like, obviously AJ did, because AJ was undeniable. And I think Joe was undeniable, but Vince was too stubborn. I think that was truly it. And then AEW, I think Joe's being presented perfectly. Obviously, I'm an AEW guy, obviously. But then, with Joe, I just think the presentation, his Ring of Honor debut, re-debut in AEW when he returned, is one of my favourite things ever, because he just comes out with a towel on his head and the crowd just know. And I think Joe should be seen as your final boss type of character, and, like, not like the final boss, like, you know, true, like, a Bow is the type of character where he's truly the end all. If we beat Samoa Joe, you are made. And, like, there's no denying that. And I feel like, again, I think that's just a credit to Joe, because I don't think it is a true of oh, Joe's been booked that way for years just because he's, oh my God, Joe's been just a booker, like a booking merchant, you know what I mean? It's like, not to throw any shade, but look at Roman Reigns. Roman Reigns is that through booking. I don't think Samoa Joe is. I think Samoa Joe is just because he's that guy who presents himself that way, rather than being written and crafted to be this personality. I think Samoa Joe is just that. And I adore that. And again, when the day eventually does come, and it's painful to say, Samoa Joe will retire, probably in the near future. And I said this about Brian, I said this about AJ. I love when wrestlers like that with such historical legacies, again, mainly big ROH guys, get this moment to go, oh my God, look back on my career, that's incredible. I think Samoa Joe I cannot wait for that with Joe. I can't, because it's fucking, like, again, it's fucking Samoa Joe. Like, I feel like Samoa Joe's, Samoa Joe was one of the one of the few wrestlers I knew when I went into wrestling. That's how much I love Joe. And just, he's want to be my main, when you're getting into wrestlers, I think you got to attach yourself to a guy, or a wrestler, a girl, whatever, and you got to, basically follow their story, and then you eventually get exposed to the entire world of professional wrestling. Samoa Joe was one of my guys. I've obviously got favoritism there, but if he's still sticking around as one of the top guys, again, if you know ball, Samoa Joe is easily top 10 for anyone. Like, people do these top 10 lists of wrestlers. If Samoa Joe's not on there, I do not give a fuck. Like, who cares? It's Samoa. He has to be on there. And he's debatably got to be top 5 for a lot of people. I want to know where people rank Joe. Let me know what your opinion is, because, again, please, because I love Joe. I love Samoa Joe, and I think everyone should too. So, yeah, that was just me rambling about Samoa Joe. I feel like I've wanted to do this for a while. Again, the AJ stuff just kind of made Joe just come more in my mind. But yeah, what do you think of Joe? Where does Joe actually rank for you? And what is your favourite Samoa Joe match? Because the fact that, he's got this Kobashi match and this Necro Butcher match and even the TNA Freeway, they're 3 all-timers. But, like, all for one guy. Like, I probably prefer the Kobashi match out of anything. But obviously, that's still such a high bar. Like, Jesus. So yeah, what do you think? And what is your opinion on Samoa Joe?